Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Before we get into today's show all about Baker Mayfield trade destinations and packages, along with a possible return of OBJ, I want to put out a quick call here to everyone watching that wants to support the Browns Report here at Chat Sports. Help us catch the Kansas City Chiefs Report on Rumble, another awesome video platform service. Head on over to rumble.com/Browns Report. The Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill. Let's have them lose this battle too. Let's catch them up, and let's beat them, and let's race them to 1,000 followers on Rumble. Now we're going to look at Baker Mayfield trade destinations. I've got 4 places Baker could end up in 2022. And then we'll look at Odell Beckham Jr. possibly returning to Cleveland, a conversation I never thought we would have. But if we have learned anything this offseason, never say never. No one woke up this morning and thought Tyreek Hill was going to get traded. No one thought Watson would change his mind after saying the Browns were out, but here we are. So in order to really tackle the idea of trading Baker, I think we got to look at what's been unfolding the last couple of days, which is Baker for a second ain't going to happen. So I think it's going to require a handful of pieces on both ends. I think the Browns got to sweeten the pot a little bit by tossing some of their own skin in the game, and maybe it goes for players instead of day 2 picks like a second or a third. Before I look at some possible trade destinations and some mock trades, I want you guys to weigh in on this. Where will Baker play in 2022? Let me know in the comment section below where you think Baker is going to end up playing. Seattle's a good guess. We'll look at all of the options I've got outlined on today's show. Let's start with the Seattle Seahawks, who traded away Russell Wilson. They need a quarterback. I don't know how confident they are in Drew Lock when the previous regime pretty much benched him going into his 3rd season. So for Seattle, you got to wonder, I don't think the Seahawks are just going to give up a 2nd-round pick like I said for Baker. So could the Browns and Seahawks make another blockbuster move? Could you get DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett for Baker Mayfield and some picks, right? I'm done looking at Baker for 1 pick. I'm now looking at Baker plus some of our own picks for some of your picks and some of your players, and let's really get things messy and hairy. So here's the mock trade I cooked up. The Browns get DK Metcalf and a 6th-round pick, and the Seahawks get Baker Mayfield, Anthony Schwartz, a 3rd-round pick from last season, and a 2022 third. I don't know if Seattle really wants to do this because you really want to move on from Metcalf and Russell Wilson in one offseason. But if they don't want to run with Drew Lock and maybe want to find what the Browns gave up on in Baker Mayfield, get a young wide receiver, a speedy one in Anthony Schwartz, and you pick up a day 2 pick. Listen, if Schneider got talked into trading Russell Wilson for just 2 firsts, maybe you could talk him into this as well. But now I want you guys to, make up your own trade. It's like the ESPN trade machine. Make up your own trade with the Seattle Seahawks because it sounds like the Seahawks are the front runner for a possible Baker Mayfield trade. Next team to look at here, the Detroit Lions. They are still on the hook with Jared Goff, but Dan Campbell strikes me as a coach who doesn't want to wait around. He doesn't want to be told, hey, you're a plane in the air. We've got no room to land. Just circle around and be in a holding pattern, and we'll wait to draft a QB or find a real QB next season. The reason why they can't really move on from Jared Goff, though, he is expensive. He's got a $31 million cap hit this season and a $41.1 million dead cap hit, which means if they were to just cut him outright or trade him, they're still on the hook for that. Now, you could maybe move some money around in the trade and the Browns take on a lot of that cap, but I think Jared Goff is staying put in Detroit. However, if Dan Campbell can get in the ear of the GM in Detroit and go, get me Baker, I think he's the real deal. He's the guy who will bite kneecaps with me. How about this trade? How about the Browns get a wide receiver to pair up with Amari Cooper and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they get a 3rd-round pick, and in return, the Lions get Baker and a 6th. If I'm Cleveland, I'd do this in a heartbeat because at least you get Baker off your, off your books as soon as possible. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, not a bad target. In fact, in his last 6 games in 2021, went off for over 550 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was a guy that if you picked him up at the end of your fantasy football season, you were very happy to have him in the postseason. He was a deep sleeper that blossomed at the end of the season, and he could be a rising name in Detroit. How about we get him over to Cleveland? Speaking of Cleveland, we have crossed 6,000 subscribers, so appreciate all of you that have already subscribed. But for anyone watching that has not subscribed, if you don't want free Browns news and rumors, then subscribe for this reason. Subscribe because you can't stand the Steelers. You hate Pittsburgh so much that you not only want to beat them on the field, like we did a couple seasons ago in Pittsburgh in the postseason, but help me beat the Steelers channel here at Chat Sports because I sit next to the Steelers guy, Jeremy, and I'm tired of him reminding me how the Steelers have more subs than the Browns. Also, speaking of Baker Mayfield, let's get back on track with him and what his future looks like in Cleveland. Do you think the Browns will trade or cut him? If they can't find a trade partner, I don't know if they want to have him on the roster and just sit out pretty much, right? A lame duck QB who is almost like Deshaun Watson last season in Houston. It'd be pretty funny if Mayfield played the games if Watson is suspended. That would be an ultimate spin zone that no one could see coming. But let me know, T for trade or C for cut. Another possible destination, and now we get in the weeds a little bit. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I know it sounds crazy, and I think it is crazy. But last night I saw Dan Orlovsky tweet this out. The Buccaneers should trade for Baker Mayfield. And I guess the thought process behind a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that's trying to win a Super Bowl, trading for a QB like Baker Mayfield when they have Tom Brady is maybe they don't like Kyle Trask. And maybe they want to let Baker sit behind Tom Brady because they don't think Tom Brady is going to be there for much longer after the season. And they're like, you know what? It's hard to find a QB, so how about we get Baker Mayfield, let him sit behind Tom Brady, let him learn from the greatest of all time, and when Brady is done after this season or next season, we've got a QB in the wing ready to take over and be the next QB in Tampa Bay. That's probably my only thought as for why Tampa Bay would do this. Now, the other thing is, unlike the other two teams, the Bucs are trying to win a Super Bowl right now. So I don't think they are in a spot to trade for a player like him. But if a trade were to happen, I think it could look maybe like Baker for a 6th-round pick and the Browns get a 2nd. I think that could be a possible trade for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Cleveland Browns. I think that's just a rough idea because it would be a future 2nd, by the way, just because Tampa Bay wants to win right now. So why are they going to trade away immediate draft capital to help them win right now? That just doesn't seem to align with what Tampa Bay's trying to do. So make it a future pick, right? Set it off in 2023. Don't have to think about it right now. Get it out of sight, get out of mind. Final destination. Not a trade destination, but the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is tough to say because I don't want to see Pittsburgh come back and haunt the Browns for moving out from Baker Mayfield and having him be the next Big Ben Roethlisberger that comes into Cleveland and wins every time. But Mary Kay was on the Orange and Brown report talking about this in her podcast. And here's what she said. The Steelers will pounce on Baker Mayfield if he becomes available. Now, maybe Mary Kay got a little bit because I don't know if the Browns are going to release him anytime soon. In fact, I think, if anything, if they don't get a trade in the next week or two, then they'll wait for training camp and see if a team has an injured quarterback and wants an immediate starter like Baker. But could you stand Baker on the Steelers? If you were someone who was so out on Baker this offseason, you couldn't wait for a trade to happen, it should be no issue. It shouldn't be a problem seeing him on the Steelers, right? You said he sucked. But if you're someone who's just even slightly paranoid about Baker for the revenge games twice a season against Cleveland, I think you're in the end for no camp. This would be the most Browns thing ever, by the way, if he went to the Steelers and then proceeded to torment the Browns, his former team, and Mike Tomlin somehow makes him a Hall of Fame quarterback, right? That would be the most Cleveland Browns thing ever. A little bit like Joe Hayden, but like Joe Hayden light/diet, going to Pittsburgh and finding out, you know what, Cleveland? I'm actually not done. You probably should have gave me the bag like Pittsburgh did. Next up on the show, could it be a possible Odell Beckham Jr. return in the cards? This is a weird thought, but with no Baker Mayfield there anymore, maybe that's possible, right? Maybe this is something that could be in the fold for Cleveland. I don't see it really happening. I think if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, it'd be pretty low. 2 out of 10. right? That would be where I would stab at it. But he was asked about it, and he had some interesting responses on Twitter. But first, I want to look at this Joseph Salvador article from Sports Illustrated, who said a source told Cleveland.com that Beckham is open to the possibility because he loved his teammates and Browns fans and only left when things reached the point of no return with Baker Mayfield. So with no Baker Mayfield there now, OBJ could be coming back because the Cleveland Browns fans, well, half of them will say, but absolutely his teammates loved Odell Beckham Jr. However, I don't think he's signing anytime soon. Remember when OBJ tore his ACL in Week 7 of 2020 and then didn't return until Week 4 of 2021, an 11th month recovery? If it's 11 or even 10 months this time after tearing his ACL in February in the second week of 2022, then I'm guessing that's not going to be him. That's not going to have him return until November at the earliest, probably into December. I think that's more of a likely timeline for Odell Beckham Jr. returning to the field. And if that's the case, if I'm OBJ, why not do what you did last year, right? Why not just wait and see which team is a front runner to win a Super Bowl and then go there? But we know OBJ turned his career around after leaving Cleveland. You look at what he did with the Browns to start the 2021 season and the way he ended the regular season in LA. 5 touchdowns with Matthew Stafford, 0 with Baker Mayfield. More yards, more everything, more games granted, but there was no question that OBJ was able to prove that he is not done and that the last couple of years in Cleveland is not a good sign, is not an accurate reflection of who he is as a player today. So Odell Beckham Jr. trying to get his career back on track after, let's call it, a speed bump or a hiccup in Cleveland. One more time, if you have not subscribed and you've reached this far in the video, well, I think we're doing something right. So appreciate anyone that's watched this far and also appreciate all of you guys that have subscribed. And we're hoping you can help us reach 7,000 subscribers, trying to get to 10K by week 1. That's kind of the big goal right now. So make sure you are subscribed at youtube.com/BrownsReport. Hit that big red button and join the channel today.